For the first time in history, the DFL has candidates in every single legislative district in Minnesota, all 201 of them, House and Senate combined. That was the result of recruitment, of organizing and energy in our communities that we have never seen before. One of the people at the center of that legislative push and that recruitment is going to be our special guest today. House DFLers managed to save HCMC with a $705 million in a hospital rescue funding package. We secured $125 million in property tax relief for homeowners across the state, and we're fighting back against every attempt to drag Minnesota backward by the Republicans today. His sights are set on winning the House majority back this November, and all the progress we can make with those wins. Please help me welcome House DFL floor leader Jamie Long is our special guest today on the DFL Daily. Your first appearance on the Daily. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the call.
Richard, good to be with you. Good to see everybody.
Awesome. Representative Long, as I mentioned a minute ago, for the first time in history, you have successfully gotten 201 candidates in every single House and Senate legislative seat. Walk us through how that happened. How much was this a deliberate recruitment push, and how much was this built from the energy coming from communities throughout Minnesota?
Well, thanks, Richard. I've led our recruitment efforts for 3 cycles, and this was the most enthusiastic recruitment cycle I've seen in all that time. And it didn't happen by accident. We invested in it. We had an organizer whose job was just to help us recruit in greater Minnesota and make sure that we had candidates across the entire state. But I'll tell you, it was a much easier pitch than we've made in the past, because people understand the moment they're in. They understand that their neighbors, even in historically red districts, are angry about what's happening at the federal level and what they're seeing from Trump. They're angry about what they saw in the state from Operation Metro Surge. And so they were willing to step up, and I'm incredibly proud that we were able to recruit across the entire state.
One of the things that I've noticed, Representative Long, is it's not just the quantity of candidates that you've been able to recruit, but the quality. I mean, we have people who are setting aside careers in science. I think of Jess out in Golden Valley, right? And I look at farmers who are literally going to figure out how to keep the farm operation going and run for office and serve in the legislature at the same time because they're so angry about the tariffs. Talk to me a little bit about the emotional reaction that you're seeing people come forward and being willing literally to set their careers aside in some ways to do the work right now.
Yeah, no, it's a sacrifice to run for office. It's a sacrifice to serve, but we are seeing people step up. And as you said, incredible candidates across the state. I think of Dan Wilson, who's running down in Winona, who's a farmer. He has already knocked on hundreds of doors in his community, and we're in June, right? I mean, he's willing to put out the work right now to talk to his neighbors. We've got Jason Heiser, who's a prosecutor running in the northwest suburbs, doing really important work for the county, but also out there knocking on doors already. We've got just incredible candidates all across the state who are ready to serve, and they're fired up. And I think they know that this is a cycle that people are motivated to help us out, but we can't take anything for granted. We know that Republicans are going to be working hard too. I think given that their statewide candidates are in a bit of disarray, that likely means some of that money is going to flow downhill, and they're going to be trying hard to hold the House, flip the Senate, invest at our level, and we can't let that happen.
Exactly. One of the things you mentioned a couple of candidates last Sunday in Otsego, we knocked on more doors in the city of Otsego in one day than we did in the entire 2024 election cycle. And here's the thing. That's because you have a candidate running up there in that district named Joey Smythe, who came up to me weeks ago at the CD6 dinner and said, you know what, Richard, I'm going to organize the biggest door knock in Otsego ever. And you know what? It became the biggest door knock in CD6 ever last Sunday, right? That was all driven by a House DFL candidate that you recruited that stepped up to run, and that is really willing to put in the work. What does it say to you that you see these tough districts and these candidates stepping up and like doing the work, right? And how does that change the real electoral force in districts that have leaned Republican for years?
Well, I think that we've shown that legislative candidates running across the state, there's certainly districts where it's going to be very tough for them to win, and they know that. But they know that they're a part of the team. They know that we're going to have really important statewide races, and they also just want to give their neighbors an opportunity to be heard and an opportunity to speak out about what's happening at the federal level. And so, for those of you who are in Greater Minnesota and want to plug in, I think our state house candidates are a really good way to have a Democratic face on the doors who you can knock with and go out, have these conversations with folks, and they're fired up.
Going into this weekend, obviously, Jamie, Representative Long, sorry, we are thinking a lot about Melissa and Mark Hortman, Johnny Yvette Hoffman, and this campaign cycle, because of the experience we had 1 year ago, has a different emotional feel for me. Anyway, I'll speak personally. You are leading in this moment, and you've helped lead this caucus forward from that horrible experience a year ago. And can you just talk a little bit about the motivation and focus you have going into November of this year?
Thanks, Richard. And it is obviously a heavy weekend for all of us in the House and all of us in the state with the anniversary this Sunday. And a tough week with the trial. But I will say that we're more motivated than ever. I know that the one thing Melissa believed in most was getting out and knocking doors. She invested in our field effort. She invested in she believed in recruiting across the state and recruiting up and down the ballot. And there were things that we couldn't respond to that happened in our state this past year because we were in a tie. And one of those was gun violence. We saw that with Melissa and Mark and the Hoffmans. We saw that in my community with the Annunciation Church. And the Democratic-controlled Senate, to their credit, stepped up and passed the most impactful gun violence prevention package in state history. And then it came to the House, and they didn't even let us vote on it. And so we know if they had let us vote, it would have had a shot at passing, because this is a 80-20 issue across the state, particularly in suburban districts. So we just need that one vote to be able to make a big difference on gun violence, on responding to ICE incursions in our community, responding to the Trump impacts on our cost of living and on our economy. And so we're motivated to try to win back the majority. And I know we will, and I know that Melissa would be proud of us.
Thanks, Representative Long. Well, last question. What gives you hope?
Well, what gives me hope is seeing all of you on a call on a Friday morning. My campaign manager did a first time door knock training for people who'd never done it before last night. She had 40 people on the call just from my house district who said, yeah, I haven't used the minivan. I don't know what that's about, but I want to come and hop on and see how I can help out this cycle. And just the level of engagement that we've seen at the Capitol and now getting into the campaign trail is just off the charts this cycle. So people are motivated to help out, to help their neighbors, to respond to the really dark moment that we're in at the federal level, and know that there is still more that we can do at the state level to push back, to stand up to authoritarianism, and we can have an incredible impact next year. I don't think we should understate what the trifecta next year could do for our state. It would be, we saw in 23-24 what that meant for our neighbors, for our community, with passing great funding for schools and universal school meals, paid family medical leave, reproductive rights. But I think give us another 2 years and you'll be proud of what we're able to accomplish for the state.
Absolutely. Thank you for being with us today, Representative Long. I do want to say that last weekend we knocked on 20,000 doors statewide. It was the biggest and earliest door knock weekend we have had in several cycles. Compare that to 2024. We didn't hit that many doors in one weekend until October. And
Wow.
That was the first weekend of June. We are door knocking again this weekend. We're going to be at Juneteenth. We're having these conversations. And one of the things that I was just at a conference, and one of the things they said is right now the number one thing we can reassure voters of is that we're listening to them. And I pointed out to the entire room that the first question on our coordinated campaign survey is, how are you doing today? Quite literally, we're checking in with them and asking them how they're doing. And that signals, that triggers for people the idea that we are there to listen. So I encourage everybody to sign up for a door knock shift with our coordinated campaign. The House Caucus is door knocking over 70,000 doors so far already this year. You're blazing a trail when it comes to demonstrating the importance of door knocking. Thank you for being here today, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Richard. I'll see you on the doors.